So I have a question today. It's actually a beautiful question. It came through that lovely group Namaste. So it's someone who's possibly even new to A Course in Miracles, but that doesn't matter. If your question's on forgiveness, then I'm really happy to answer it. If your question is something that's heavy on your heart, then I'm happy to look at it for both of us to see it differently together. So here is the question. How does one approach a person and ask for forgiveness when one feels too ashamed to do so? So that's like a really good question. Well, I feel when we want anything from anyone, even forgiveness, then we're asking something of them. And if you already have a perception that in some way you've wronged someone, or you are ashamed about something you've done or said or thought or felt or an interaction, maybe it's what somebody might call a sin of omission, that you didn't do something that you should have, in your own opinion, done, or believe you could have done. No matter why you are ashamed and no matter what it is you will want from another person, those are the two key things here that we need to address. So this is where you can take total responsibility whether you ever get to see the other person or not. And this instantly will make you feel empowered and receptive and open and happy. So let's look at those two things. The first is the perception that you've done someone wrong and that you need their forgiveness. It does very often feel helpful to do what they call in 12 steps, make amends, and go to meet with the person and talk about what happened now that you're in a new state of mind. You're in a new space in your life, things have shifted and changed, and you see things differently. So I address that in my video called Sorry. So in this case, there is a desire, which we can hear, to go and see the other person and to receive their forgiveness. Well, first and foremost, I like to think of this as going to ask a girl to dance. So in the olden times, they had rules where the girls sat on one side and the boys sat on the other, and the boys had to ask the girls to dance. And the girls had to wait to be asked to dance. So the boys had to pull up all this courage within themselves to go and ask someone, would they dance with them? Now this is a lot like the thought, I want to ask them for forgiveness. I would say that what was most important then and now in that kind of scenario is that you want to talk to that one. You want to connect with them for a moment. And so the only reason to move across the floor is a desire to happily connect with them. If they dance with you or forgive you, that's just like a bonus. But what you really want is to forgive yourself. So you really want an experience of being good with yourself before you walk across the dance floor. If you feel ashamed and you walk across the dance floor, you're going to get a reflection of that. If you have a grievance still against yourself and won't forgive yourself, you will get a reflection of that when you walk across the dance floor. Okay, well, I'm not saying that forgiveness, which is not between persons at all, according to A Course in Miracles, is activated by a desire to connect with another. I'm saying that it is the desire to connect with another. So you're not looking for a resolution through the activity, you're looking to see things differently through your openness before you even go for anything. So let's start again. Okay, you have this desire to ask someone for forgiveness. So let's start with you. Let's start with you. Let's look at the list of grievances you have against yourself. Bring into awareness all of the ways in which you thought you should have done something differently, behaved differently, could have done something differently, behaved differently, would have, had circumstances been different, behaved differently, thought differently, done differently. And let's bring it all to awareness and face the shame that's there. Sometimes the shame comes from not having addressed and looked at this part. Sometimes the shame comes from totally unrelated seeming stories in our life. But very often the shame just comes from the belief that I'm not good enough, that there's something inherently wrong and bad about me, and that no matter what I do, it won't be good enough. And that often stops us then trying. Now, I am not suggesting you try to be good enough. I'm suggesting you question that you're not good enough. whole world is running around trying to prove that they're good enough. Nothing is less convincing that there's nothing wrong with you than trying to prove that you're good enough, trying to prove you're not guilty, trying to prove you're worthy. It doesn't matter what shampoo you buy. If you have to find out you're worth it that way, that won't do it. You have to question that there is unworthiness to begin with. So, 2-step here for this question. How do I approach someone to ask for forgiveness when I'm feeling shame? And the answer is, first, desire just to simply connect with the person and want nothing from them by having forgiven all of what you believe has happened before, by simply looking at it with the Holy Spirit in openness. Face the shame that you believe is warranted and is yours by simply allowing it to rise up in your awareness, in your experience. And then, and only then, if inspired, connect with the person purely out of love, to walk up to them and say, "This is how I feel now." And offer them a gift. Offer them a gift of gratitude for who they are, how they've been with you, and what you've learned from it. Even if at times that was awkward, uncomfortable, antagonistic, distressing. Your desire to go and receive gratitude from them is not really to relieve yourself of guilt. Your desire to receive gratitude from them is what you consider forgiveness. So you can only offer that to yourself. And if you've received the forgiveness for yourself, then you can offer them gratitude. And when you approach them, it may look like a traditional forgiveness experience, but it will feel good no matter what they decide to think or believe about you. It will feel good to you because you're not asking anything of them. I had a friend once who, spent years honorably having phone calls with his family about his life, and, he was taking responsibility for his new life and how he was, and he was noticing that lots of people within his life didn't come with him into this new life. And he was on the phone one time and he just said, "You just have never accepted that this is my path," to his mother. And his mother said, "No, you just never accepted that we don't accept that this is your path." And so these people are not asked to come with you. They are free to say yes or no. And if you have come to an experience of true forgiveness in your own heart, with the entirety of the story, the idea of you, the idea of them, the idea of the circumstances, then when you approach them, you're simply saying, "I see this differently. I see this differently." If you need to use the word "I'm sorry" or apologize in some way, then that's perfect. But you're coming to give them something. You're coming to give them a sense of gratitude. And so first and foremost, you must find that for yourself. You must find the gratitude you have for them to have allowed you to come to this awareness now, because they are worthy of that gratitude. But first you must recognize that you are grateful. Then you have something to give them. Otherwise, it could be experienced as an attack again because you want something from them. And they in that moment may or may not be able to offer you anything. So, if you want to go meet someone, if you want to ask that girl to dance, then you stand up and you think, "I see things differently now. I'm not ashamed of not being the most handsome guy in this room. I'm not ashamed that I have a bit of a limp. I'm not ashamed that yesterday I was drunk and rude to this girl. I'm not ashamed. Today I want to walk across and ask this girl to dance and offer her the invitation to dance with me because I'd love to dance." And that's it. And even if she says no, you'll have had a nice chat with her and you'll be able to live with yourself because you offered the very thing to yourself that you desired.